All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tailosive Tech live on YouTube. Hope you're all having a wonderful Thursday. Almost done with the week. Stay tuned, everyone. We got this. We can get through it all. I'm counting down the days because we got a trip coming up next week. So I don't know if I've talked about that much publicly, but yeah, I'm going to be taking some time off because my wife and I are planning a trip. I'm not going to say where we're going just because I don't want people trying to figure it out. But we're going out of town for a little bit to relax and enjoy our anniversary. But I am working as much as I can right now overtime so that videos will drop while I'm away. So there won't be live streams during this trip, but there will be normally typical posted videos. So many of you probably won't even notice I'm gone. That's the goal, though. But I wanted to talk about this subject in specific today because right now it's kind of, live breaking news. This guy named Kenny Pie, he's from Switzerland, wanted USB-C on the iPhone so bad that he was able to rip it open, basically solder a bunch of stuff together and build in a Lightning to USB-C adapter into the phone so that essentially there's a USB-C iPhone in existence now. Granted, not endorsed by Apple, and for liability reasons, he has to disclose that by bidding on this auction, you agree. He goes into the details here. You will not restore, update, or erase this iPhone. You will not use it as your daily phone. You will not open it. So it's not like a legally binding contract. It's basically just saying, he actually goes into a detail on what he means by that. He says, I guarantee that the phone will work when you receive it, but if you don't follow the aforementioned guidelines, you are on your own. So basically, you can do whatever you want with it, but don't expect anything from me if you break something. It's just a prototype. Essentially, I think that means whoever buys this thing can use it as their daily phone. They can rip it open if they want to, but they don't get to sue him or they don't get to be mad at him if it breaks or something goes wrong with it, because this is obviously not a Apple-supported standard. It's someone who ripped apart the phone. But I just watched the video not long ago, and I found it very, very interesting, all the work he put into it. It's a black iPhone 10 with 64 gigs. Brain Freak, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. He says, it comes with the box, but there's no accessories included. So $100,000 iPhone, people still don't care if it comes with a charger. But it's USB-C, right? Who cares? We all got USB-C cables anyway. And it does come with free shipping, despite it now bidding at $100,000. So when you really weigh it, I think it's worth it at the end of the day. Technically, I guess I'm rounding up a tad bit, but the current bid is $99,900, which means if anyone else places a bid, it's got to be $100,000 or more. There's 900 people watching it right now. I'm thinking about it. I could sell my house. I could live on the streets, but at least I would have a USB-C iPhone, right? Like, I think this would be worth it. Y'all think Tesla is overpriced with their cars? Yeah, right. Needed something to do. Now I can watch this stream. Welcome, Garcia. Can you review the USB-C iPhone? I could probably... No. I was like, could I get a loan from a bank, potentially? Like, could I take out a mortgage on this phone? Because it does work. He showed it on camera several times. And he got that perfect money shot where he holds his iPhone next to a MacBook. And the MacBook is charging. Granted, it's not a later generation MacBook because it's not using MagSafe, but it has USB-C. He unplugs it and plugs it straight into the iPhone, and it starts charging. And then he emphasizes that you can still transfer data through this port, not just power. And it's reversible, so it works either way, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it actually was quite challenging for him to get that working. So shout out to Kenny for making that happen. I am not brave enough or confident enough that I could do those types of things. I'm just confident I would break it, but I'd love to see more people get on this bandwagon, but I think the bids being this high, this is on eBay, Apple Dolphin. It's there right now. I guess there's a way I can, thanks to airdrop being a thing, if you really want to drop the bid, I can airdrop it to the MacBook and post it in the chat. I could imagine Marquez buying it. I wonder if at $100,000, I have to ask myself, like, could Could a YouTuber even make that amount of money back with the video they could make on it? I imagine, like, max, you could probably make, like, I don't know, 5-minute video, 10-minute video, maybe if it had a sponsorship. Um, I should collab with Jerry Rig. Collab is in, like, ask Zach to do it for me. He has a free schematic of the components he uses. You can do it on your own for about $50. $50 and a whole lot of work. Yeah. Also, I'm 120 hertz on everything, so iPhone 10 won't cut it for me. I'm definitely interested to see other people try to do this on more recent generation iPhones, because the iPhone 10 just turned 4 years old, for the record. I was just thinking of this yesterday. I picked up the iPhone 10 on launch day. It was November 3rd of 2017, so we just passed the 4-year mark of the iPhone 10. Still fairly, as old as it is and annoying that it still has lightning, I gotta give credit. That phone still looks pretty modern. It looks pretty futuristic, That's kind of like the default iPhone look now, is you got no home button, full screen OLED display, and a notch. And the iPhone 10 introduced that, and we're still basically piggybacking off that design. The description makes me wonder how this even got such a high bid. I think the description... Thank you for the super chat, Benjamin. I think the description is basically covering him liability-wise. If he were to just sell it as a USB-C iPhone and he didn't disclose anything like that, maybe someone could come back at him and say, hey, I started using this as my phone every day, and I restored it or updated and it stopped working. He kind of protects himself legally by saying, no, don't do that. But obviously he says in the fine print, like, you can do whatever you want with it. It's your phone. I don't care. It's just, don't expect it to, like, if something goes horribly wrong, I'm not going to provide service to you. That's essentially what he's saying. No, I do not make 100K off a video, unfortunately. I would love a portless iPhone over USB-C. MagSafe is great. Also lets people get rid of the ringer button on iPad. It's in Control Center. I don't know, if Apple's kept the ringer button for this long, I feel like they have a reason for it. Like, logistically, they think it's practical on the iPhone because you're getting more phone calls on that than you are on the iPad. Whoa! Thank you for the super chat, Andre, but I'll read it in just a moment. I mainly want to emphasize how much news and attention this USB-C iPhone is getting. It's getting reported by The Verge, it's on Mac Rumors, it's on 9to5Mac, like Gizmodo. There's so many news agencies bringing attention to this, and there's literally several hundred people watching this. There's a super chat. Thank you, Andre. There's so many people watching this bid, and it's not necessarily, I think, that they plan on using the phone, but think about it. Like, this is how high in demand a USB-C iPhone is. That there's literally at least one person, maybe a couple more. We'll see what happens with the bids as the days go by. But it might go... People are out there willing to spend 6 figures on a 4-year-old iPhone without a charger or headphones in the box, and still, just so that they can have Type-C on their phone. That's how much interest there is in this. I'm not saying that's the majority of the market, but I think that I'm hoping... Man, thank you for all the super chats. I'll get there. I'm hoping that this amount of attention inspires Apple and makes them realize that they would have tremendous phone sales and a whole lot of applause and basically people pumped. Thank you, Benjamin. To buy an iPhone with Type-C, because that's what they have on their iPads, that's what they got on their MacBooks, and that is the superior port. Okay. Andre says, unrelated, but do you think Apple will bring back in 2022 the MacBook lineup, 13-inch to 14-inch white keyboard, and have a mid-tier MacBook Air 14-inch black keyboard, kind of similar to the iPad lineup? Well, the iPad wouldn't have white keyboard. I don't think... Everyone keeps asking the MacBook to come back. I think they got rid of it for a reason. MacBook Air is an iconic, recognizable name, as is MacBook Pro. When they tried to do regular MacBook, it didn't really captivate that many people. And when you're referring to a MacBook in the lineup, you can't just say MacBook. You now have to say the normal MacBook or the regular MacBook, which doesn't really save much time. I'm not a fan of white keyboards in general, so I haven't seen any rumors of that happening. I do have a video planned about more MacBook options, but I don't think they would go with that naming again because they've tried it several times and it never works out. They keep taking it away. So they introduced it and then they got rid of it and then they introduced it again with the 12-inch form factor and now they got rid of that. So I don't know. It's unlikely for them to bring it back a third time. M. Dubik, thank you for the super chat. Says next mod 30-pin connector iPhone. You would have to pay me to use that thing. Benjamin says my super chats are gonna put you in a higher tax bracket. Thankfully, not quite yet, but I do appreciate all the super chats. Thank you. Is it even real? It is real. This is on eBay. It's currently at $99,900. 172 bids have been put on this. I think it started at like 10,000 or something like that. It did not start very high, but so many people want this thing. Hopefully, Kenny is able to use this money towards making more videos and getting a lot of people's attention. So shout out to Kenny. Well done. JCP, thank you for the super chat. Buy it. Louise might permanently banish you waiting for Thunderbolt 4 on the iPhone. Well, what's she going to banish me from? We won't have a house because I got to sell the house to buy the phone. But yeah, I wouldn't mind a MacBook Air in the same form factor as the 12-inch MacBook. Just need to get the keyboard together. That's essentially what I believe the M2 MacBook Air will be. It's going to be like the same size of the 12-inch MacBook, just with thin bezels. Mike says, hopefully nobody outbids me. So there you go. Mike has the USB-C iPhone. What's up, Drew? I'm dying without that M1 Pro 16-inch MacBook. Just don't have enough money, and I'm wildly impatient with regard to this. I'm sorry, man. I hope you can get it soon. What does suck about the sale is eBay is going to take a huge cut. Oh, is that right? I haven't sold as much on eBay. Oh my god, what just happened? Holy crap. What? Did Gleb? Why have I not heard of this person? Oh god. Okay, I hope the sound doesn't... Sheesh, what did he say? I'm considering switching from a Razer Blade Studio to a maxed out M1 MacBook. I want the simplicity of iOS, but I'll miss the gaming. What should I do? Oh my god, Gleb! Did you mean to do that? Was that an accident? Come on, YouTube. I need that refund button. Whoa, there it is. Okay. Jeez. That's a lot of super chat. Thank you very much. That's insane. Holy crap. Yeah, you'll definitely miss out on some of the gaming, that's to be sure. But the M1 MacBook, I personally think it's one of the best laptops of all time, if you don't care much about gaming. But if you do, I imagine the Razer Blade Studio is probably going to hold you over fairly well. That was just insanely generous. I have to think that's an accident. Oh my god. Do you think Mr. Beast would buy this, or is he bidding on it? Mr. Beast would rather buy something far more interesting for his channel. This would not be very interesting to his audience in general. What about a MacBook Mini? That's kind of what the Air is. I don't think MacBooks can get much smaller than that. If every one of us watching this live stream super chatted $400, he would have enough to place a bid. Oh my god. The thing is, this could go so horribly wrong. You guys don't want to do this. Oh my god, Gleb said it was no accident? What? That must have been an accident. That was a $10 correction he just made. Oh my god. If you're dropping this much super chats, why do you need to trade? Just get the latest Razer laptop and the M1 MacBook. My god. You can have both. Thank you for the super chat, Gleb. Oh my god. How's it hanging, Anna Maria? Hey, thanks for joining. My cousin. My cousin from another country. He wants a maxed out Mac, so it looks likely he intentionally did that. Oh, jeez. I mean, I appreciate it, but my god. Have you returned your AirPods 3 yet? My girlfriend couldn't get used to their size. She chose to stick with the Gen 2. I haven't yet, but I think I will in the next couple days. I'm probably going to be taking a drive fairly soon. And when I drive, I'll probably just stop by an Apple store and drop them off. That way I don't have to print a return label and ship it. But yeah, I don't plan on keeping them, unfortunately. But I think Apple could very easily get away with... Like, I don't honestly think the Lightning fans would be that upset at this point. Like, I think the same number of people that were upset of legacy ports coming back on the MacBooks are going to be the same number of people upset about Lightning getting removed on the iPhone. I've heard people say before, like, oh no, Apple will never put USB-C on the iPhone because they just want to go portless. But we've been saying this for 4 years now. You know, I remember back in 2017, people were like, why doesn't the iPhone 10 have USB-C? And they were like, because Apple's about to go portless. We're 4 years in, and there's still not much of a sign of them going portless. There was a bunch of people in 2020 saying that they would do it this year. Somebody special donated. Wow. Osterhagen needs to get in on this. Does he? My God, you guys are just being insanely generous today. For no reason. There are Lightning fans? Yes, there are. I've seen people out there. They're not a huge portion of the iPhone fan base, but there's a few people out there that are like, no, I like Lightning. And I'm like, come on. Like, Apple's, the new MacBook, as much as I love it, is not exactly helping with this universal standard idea. I like the concept of using one port and one connector for everything. It's fine that some of them is higher speed and some of them is lower speed, because a phone typically doesn't need Thunderbolt, although I wouldn't be against it if the iPhone did, because it can shoot in ProRes now. So if you want to offload huge files onto your computer, Thunderbolt on the iPhone is not a terrible idea, but it's not necessary. In basically all Androids, you don't need Thunderbolt on phones like that. So I'm not saying you need to have the exact same standard across everything, but at least it's the same shape. It's like you can still use a MacBook charger to charge a phone with Type-C. But now that Apple has switched to MagSafe and includes MagSafe on all these new MacBooks, it kind of distorts all the charging standards further. I mean, the Apple Watch has its own proprietary charge puck. The iPhone has Lightning. iPads have USB-C now, pretty much all of them except the budget one. And the MacBooks have their own charging method. So we have all these different charge connectors we have to pack with us whenever we travel, which is somewhat frustrating to me. I'm debating looking into those, I'm not sure if it's Anchor, but there's companies out there that make like very powerful bricks that can charge your MacBook and charge your iPad and your phone all from one brick. So I'm like, if I don't have to pack a bunch of separate bricks every time I go on a trip, that would be nice. Anna Maria says, I like Lightning, but honestly, I don't care. I charge mainly via Qi charging. I'm fine with portless. That wouldn't bother me as long as, Lightning goes away, because I think it's time to abandon it. Especially now that AirPods are getting like MagSafe support, that I feel like this is a good opportunity for Apple to really, really push people to inductively charge more with, like, these are supposed to be wireless. If it's a truly wireless experience, let it charge wirelessly. If there was to be a portless device first, this case is not really delivering anything data-wise to these pods, as far as I can tell. Maybe the button being pressed, but aside from that, these would be a good indicator of like the first portless, the first of many Apple devices to go portless outside of, I guess, the Apple Watch. But however, why people want USB-C? Because of their transfer speeds when recording videos with the iPhone and using ProRes or huge 4K files. I'm like, if you have a port on something, make it the best port. Because I'm not saying we need USB-C on this. I'm just saying, they should be endorsing the portless future, because that's what AirPods are all about, is not needing to use a cable. I don't mind Lightning. Doesn't really bother me. It doesn't bother me because I can just pretend it doesn't exist, but I would rather either Apple get rid of the port entirely so that you can, I don't know, stuff some more battery in there, more components of some kind in there, and just go all in on MagSafe. Or if you're going to have a port, use the best port, which is Type-C. That will allow for faster data speeds. That will require less accessories and cables you have to bring on trips, because you can use the same charger for your MacBook and your iPad and your iPhone, even though the MacBook technically ships with MagSafe now. It's a different type of MagSafe, my God. I don't hate Lightning. I wouldn't upgrade my phone for USB-C alone. It would be just convenient. Yeah, I'm in the same boat of like, my phone is mostly in the camp of I'm comfortable with using it inductively for all charging, and I don't believe I've ever used the Lightning port on my iPhone a single time. Yeah, if we raise $100,000 in the live stream, I guess I'll have to put a bid on this USB-C iPhone. But there's a lot of people watching it. It's got 6 days left, so with 6 days left, it started... Did it start today at 8 a.m.? That was fast. Are the new AirPods 3 and Pro case wireless? Yes, yes. AirPods 3 and all new AirPods Pro even have MagSafe support, so they stick to the magnet. That's like the one thing I'll miss about AirPods 3. I don't really miss the audio quality because it's about the same on AirPods Pro, and I don't really miss the fit in my ear because I think they fit fine, and AirPods 2 for me also fit fine. Um, the Air still has Type C, correct? Yeah. Pretty much all the iPads have Type C except the budget one, but I think that's only a matter of time. Apple helped co-develop USB-C. Why didn't they switch back to it in 2015 or 16? I'm guessing it was some kind of internal debate they had. I think that just like we debate about it in the tech community, there's probably people internally at Apple debating about it. There's a bunch of people saying, this is the better port. This is what everyone's switching to. Let's do that. And there's a bunch of people saying, well, look at how many Lightning accessories are already out there. You know, Apple got a ton of backlash when they ditched 30-pin, despite 30-pin being objectively worse than Lightning. Lightning, I would argue, is, you know, still substantially better than the 30-pin connectors, but people still were really, really angry because of all the docks and all the accessories they had bought. I don't think it would be that bad now because, frankly, the 30-pin was across all kinds of like alarm systems and car connections and US Lightning came out and it was on nothing. That no one was using Lightning when Apple introduced it on the iPhone 5. So it was basically like, here's a new standard you've never heard of and we think it's better, and over time everyone will get used to this. And that was frustrating to people, but if they switch to Type-C, this is something that Apple themselves has been shipping on their products for 6 years now. It's not a new standard, and it's something I could see a ton of people already having access to. So I would say the frustration would not be as bad, especially because back in the 30-pin days, there were a lot more docks. You know, there were a lot of speakers that would connect through your iPod or your iPhone, whereas now there's more wireless speakers anyway, Bluetooth speakers or HomePods or Google Home Minis and that kind of thing. So there's a few accessories out there that I'm sure wouldn't work anymore. But thank you for the super chat. Is this a leaked prototype or something? What is the auction on? Or else I will speak to your manager. I'll drop it in the chat for Karen. It's on eBay, but someone basically made it themselves. They include an adapter to turn a lightning cable into a MagSafe. I don't think they do, but it's not that simple because most lightning cables these days have a 5-watt brick on the other end because that's just what most people have access to. That was what was shipped with all iPhones for many, many years, and that's probably what a ton of people are still using. And you cannot get much of a charge. I don't think you can activate it at all if you try to output 5 watts through MagSafe. I believe you need at least 10 watts, probably more like 15 to get an adequate charge rate. But there's a lot of energy lost during that conversion process to inductive charging. So you couldn't instantly just convert every lightning cable into a MagSafe charging cable because not every lightning cable has enough power on the other end. People wouldn't be this annoyed by lightning if it was actually better than USB-C, like having high transfer speeds and such. Right, or being bilateral. That's another big argument in my mind is that like, we have USB-C to USB-C cables. It doesn't matter which one you plug in. You can plug it in this way, you can plug it in this way. We don't have any lightning to lightning cables though. Those don't exist. That's not a thing. It's always lightning to USB-C or lightning to USB-A. So it's not bilateral. It's reversible, but USB-C is better because it's bilateral and reversible. They could just put a Lightning to USB-C adapter for the first 2 iPhones that have USB-C to ease the transition. Yep, they did the exact same thing with the headphone jack. Included a headphone jack adapter for 2 years, then they got rid of it once most people had moved on. But I'm just, for those joining just now who are curious what this stream is about, I'm mainly hoping that Kenny Pie, who is now getting bids of $100,000 on eBay, just so that there's people who really, really want a USB-C iPhone. You need to place a bid of 100,000 or more. I don't know if eBay has some crazy rules about that, but basically all of the news articles being reporting on this could send a message to Apple about how high in demand this feature would be. And I think Apple would face just too much backlash if they went portless. I feel like that's the reason they haven't done it now, right? We had MagSafe since the iPhone 12. Why not remove the port on the iPhone 13 if Apple truly thinks portless is the way of the future? What's their argument? Their argument's probably going to be like, well, the lightning port is still used for this, it's still used for this, and we think it makes sense for this. It's like, we've had wireless charging for 4 years, MagSafe for 2, well, I guess coming up on 2. Why bother keep, if you're going to keep the port around, I'd say keep the best port. Why would anyone buy an iPhone for 100K? That's crazy. Well, I think a lot of people say that about why would people spend $1,000 on an iPhone? A lot of people have USB-A ports on their cars that convert to Lightning for CarPlay. That will piss off 1,000 people if they use USB-C. Well, we're saying if you had a Lightning to Type-C adapter included, they could just add that. Also, Bird 203, you could use that exact same argument against the 30-pin. Like, that same argument would be why Apple should not switch to Lightning and should just use 30 pins forever. Because if your goal is, well, we can't switch the connector on something until literally no one is using it. Like, that's not going to happen. Of course, there's one port on the phone. There's going to be people using that port regardless. But Apple decided Lightning was better than 30 pin. And yes, there were a ton of accessories and a ton of docks and a ton of... I know my mother's car had a 30 pin cable like built into it that was not easy to remove. That was not like that was not something you could easily pull out and swap in with Lightning. But Apple still switched it. Apple still switched to Type-C. I understand the argument of e-waste, but if you're going to use a port, still at least give us a good port. I'd say give us the best port. And Apple brags about USB-C on the iPad. They put Type-C on the iPad mini, and they literally flexed that as a selling point. They're like, we've switched it to USB-C, so it works with more this, and it's more compatible with more cables and stuff. Like, yeah, well, CarPlay can be wireless. There are cars that have wires, but I'm saying that's not a good argument in my view, because there were a lot of cars that had 30-pin connectors built in that people used, and then they had to all switch over to Lightning when Type-C came out. The auto industry moves a lot slower, yes, but I don't think that's on Apple. Like, that, again, every argument you use of like, but people use this in their car and the car industry moves slowly is like, okay, why did we ditch 30-pin then? You had to ditch it at some point. Everyone was using it. Wireless CarPlay is not in many cars yet. I don't think that's Apple's problem. I think it's in most cars these days. Most of the newer cars have wireless CarPlay. But also, all of this could be solved by just throwing in a little Lightning to USB-C adapter. Same exact thing they did with the headphone jack. What about data transfer? Type-C is better at data transfer than Lightning is. My 13 Pro Max with 1 terabyte came. Hey, congrats, Jake. Wonderful. Apple has made a Lightning to Lightning adapter, the one that came with the first gen Apple Pencil. Yeah, but they've only included it in that. There has not been Lightning to Lightning cables. There has been Lightning to Lightning adapters, but that's different. I don't understand Nick's argument against the MacBook Pros. Was he being serious or doing a bit? No hate on Nick. I respect his opinion, but I don't understand what he's trying to say. I can't really figure it out either. I have a feeling he's doing a bit. I don't know, but I can tell you that Nick's viewpoint on most subjects is that the product is pretty much pointless or useless unless I have a specific use case for it. I don't know if that's a character he's playing up for the show. He hasn't told me that off the record. He hasn't said like, by the way, I don't believe anything I'm saying. He's never said that. But he still seems to think like if I don't have a use for this product, then the product is therefore bad, which is a concept I'm trying to introduce Nick to the idea that there are good products that exist that are not for me. Like I don't have a use for AirTags, but I still think AirTags are great. But no, I don't understand his argument either. It doesn't make sense. Let's see. Some people just want to watch the world burn. My car doesn't have wireless CarPlay, so I would be bummed if I had to replace the head unit in order to buy a new phone, but I would still do it if I had to. Just bought a 13 Pro Max, so I'm good. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think having people have to buy an additional accessory when you're buying a $1,000 phone. Oh no, now I gotta buy a $20 adapter for this thing. That's not gonna stop people. You know, Apple stopped including the charger with iPhones, and there were all these people getting uppity on Twitter about like, yeah, but some people need the brick, and some people need this, and I would need... I heard this exact same argument with the headphone jack when they removed that. Some people want the headphone jack. You know, I don't want to have to buy a new thing or this or that. And I don't see why suddenly all of those arguments that didn't work on Apple before, suddenly people think they need to apply those now. There are adapters for cables, so just use one if the cable doesn't fit. Now that the 13 Pros have ProRes recording, USB-C needs to be implemented because Lightning is way too slow, but knowing Apple, they'll try to remove the port altogether before switching. My guess is they are facing this internal debate just as much as we are. Apple is not one singular mind, right? It's not one person's vision. It's a collective group of thousands of people all trying to make the right call. Now, there's probably a few dozen people that actually make the big calls of what features and what standards Apple is going to support. That's the tricky part, is hoping that these people make the right call, and they're probably factoring in all the things we're thinking about and then some. You know, they're probably considering a bunch of things that I don't even think about. But I don't think the e-waste argument is very good because basically you need to keep manufacturing separate cables for the iPhone and separate cables for AirPods, whereas you could be making the exact same cable for all of your products. Let's see. How fast can you transfer a normal-sized video to your Mac recorded with an iPhone today? How much faster would it be with USB-C? Oh, thank you for the super chat, Karen. I'll read it in a sec. Right now, AirDrop is insanely fast. Keep in mind, like, not all videos on the iPhone are recorded at ProRes. I'm actually hoping later. I don't know when I'll do this. I'm going to need some more time because it's not as quick and easy to make as most of my videos, but I want to do an in-depth comparison. I want to go I want to do a deep dive on iPhone video performance, especially with the 13 Pro Max. I want to compare cinematic mode to ProRes to normal 4K at 60 high efficiency codec recording, just so that people kind of understand the differences. And ProRes is basically why I think a lot of people are advocating for USB-C. Airdropping 4K at 60 footage off the iPhone is pretty quick, especially with my new MacBook. I forgot to bring that up in the review. That's dropping later. But when I airdrop videos off my phone to my iMac Pro, they needed to convert out of HEVC into a .mov file. Whereas now with Apple Silicon, airdropping is so much faster. It airdrops faster than the video plays. I can record a 15-second video and it'll airdrop to the Mac in 3 seconds. It's insanely fast. But that type of video, I don't think you need to USB-C for. I mean, sure, it might be a little bit faster than airdropping, but airdropping is pretty... it's as fast as the animation will load. I recorded a bunch of videos and airdropped them to the Mac today, and whenever I would tap on the Mac, the animation is done. As fast as the animation will load, that's how quickly the file shares. It's very fast. But if you're recording ProRes, especially at 4K, that's when you start getting 6 gigabytes per minute. So a 10-minute ProRes video is 60 gigs. Airdropping that, it's about a second. So a 10-minute video takes 10 minutes to airdrop. And if you had USB-C on the iPhone with faster speed than Lightning, which wouldn't be hard because we know USB-C can, technically go all the way to Thunderbolt, that would be much, much faster. So if you're going to advertise to people that you can record high bitrate videos on the iPhone, specifically advertising ProRes, which is a file format not average consumers are going to care about, that's a professional grade thing. So if you're going to advertise professional grade recording, they're kind of bragging about ProRes as something that you can easily load into a Final Cut timeline. If that's the case, you're intentionally recording videos on this phone which you are going to share onto another device. I don't think it's often being advertised as record ProRes video on your iPhone and then edit a whole movie on your iPhone. It's no, you can take that footage and put it somewhere else. So if you're going to put it somewhere else, Thunderbolt makes more sense. Now that the 13 Pros have ProRes recording, USB... Oh, sorry, I read that. I think Nick is saying that 4 Thunderbolt ports is better than 3 Thunderbolt plus legacy ports because you have more expandability. It's a legitimate argument, but it's still not convenient, in my opinion. I don't think it is a legitimate argument if you consider that the previous generation Thunderbolt ports were Thunderbolt 3, and both sides of the MacBook had shared throughput on both of those ports. So basically, you couldn't get the full Thunderbolt 3 speed on both ports simultaneously. The reason I don't think it's a genuine argument is because I cannot hear any use case of someone that was using 4 Thunderbolt ports on the Mac, and one of those ports, at least one of those ports, was not being occupied for SD card, HDMI, or power. If you're using all 4 Thunderbolt ports on your Mac, one of those ports is offering one of those things via an adapter or something. So if Apple just includes all of that now and you don't need to bring an additional adapter with you, that's why I give massive props, and that's why I'm in love with this MacBook and why I prefer it so much from any other Apple product, is just because it requires so little additional hardware. Like right now, I'm live streaming with the built-in webcam and the onboard microphones, and they sound great, and I think the webcam looks fantastic. I don't need to plug in an external mic. I don't need to buy an adapter for this. I can record my videos straight to an SD card and just plug it in. I don't mind adapters. You know, I still would have bought this thing even if it didn't have legacy ports. I still would have spent, you know, an absurd amount of money, but if they're there, I will use them, yes. Okay, why is the auction already at 100 grand for some super easy DIY mod? I don't understand. It's literally homemade. Why does an easy mod make bank for this guy? It's easier to DIY. Okay, Karen, post your video. I want to see you do this. I would encourage you to watch the video Kenny Pie uploaded of how he made the first USB-C iPhone work. If it's so easy, do it yourself, because I bet you can't. I'll challenge you. That's my bet. I don't think it's that easy. So post a video of you doing it. I want to see. If it's so easy, do it on an iPhone 13. But it's definitely not easy. Just unboxed the 13 Pro Max on my channel, and the graphite is unreal, not massive on Sierra Blue. Pacific Blue was my jam. What's a good color they should shoot for next year? I felt like matte black was a missed opportunity. I saw leaks of it, and there were renders of it floating around, and I thought, you know, leaks that ended up being wrong, so they're not really leaks. But I saw so much concept art of what the 13 Pro Max in matte black would have looked like, and I thought that was really, really good. I'm also a big fan of red. I like Product Red stuff, so I totally would have bought a Product Red iPhone if they had one. I know that getting the Product Red steel is difficult. Getting these colors to be saturated is challenging, so that's why most of the iPhone colors for the Pro line are always fairly faded, like a midnight green or a Sierra Blue or a Pacific Blue. They're not very saturated colors, but Apple iDesigner a few years ago did a concept with Product Red glass. So the glass on the back was red, but the steel was gold. And it was like the Iron Man phone because it was the color combo of Iron Man. And I was like, that is dope. I saw that rendering and I was like, I would totally buy an Iron Man phone. If it's just red glass with gold steel, that's using technology that already exists. It wouldn't be challenging to get the colors on that right. So, I wish they'd do something like that. Whoever buys this iPhone doesn't want the iPhone. They have a butt ton of money and want to send a message to Apple. Well, I think they do want it. I don't know. $100,000 is a expensive message. You know, you can just text Apple on iMessage for free. It's not that hard. But I do think this story picking up so much attraction in this eBay listing, getting so much attention so quickly, says a lot about how badly people want this feature. It just makes too much sense to me. Like in all the polls, I see everyone saying they want USB-C. Overwhelmingly, yes, everyone wants Type-C. It's like, if you're going to have a port, do it Type-C, but if you don't want Type-C, just have no port at all. Karen says Apple needs to bring back Jet Black. We need Jet Place iPhones, iPads, and MacBook Pros. Yeah, I kind of missed Jet Black. Oh, Bart, thank you for your continued support as a member. Appreciate it. Matte Black would be amazing. How do I join the members only Discord? Oh yeah, you link your YouTube account to your Discord, and it unlocks certain channels there. So if you ping me in those channels, I'll respond. You can basically ask questions like this, except at any time. I can't guarantee I'll respond instantly, but I'll respond even if I'm not live and that kind of thing. You have to link your YouTube account to your Discord account in order to access the channels for members only. But it's all still part of the same Discord. What all memes aside, what do you genuinely predict Apple is going to do with the port? Not what other people think. What do you see them doing? I have a feeling that there's this big debate going on internally. All right. Whoa. how do I say that? Visualizer? Is that the term? Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate that. Wow. Thank you guys. You guys are all being crazy generous today. Basically, I have a theory that just like there's this online debate of people that are like, no, I like Lightning because my car has a Lightning connector in it. Therefore, we will use Lightning for the next 5,000 years, and we can never change that port because my car has Lightning. If my car had USB-C in it, then Apple can switch to USB-C. Kind of narrow-minded viewpoint. It's just, this is all my world. They can only do what I want. That's it. But internally, they're having this debate of, okay, we have all these Lightning accessories that we've been manufacturing and selling for a long time. You know, I will admit, it's kind of nice for people that even if you bought an iPhone 5, you could still be using that charger on the iPhone 13. Most people probably aren't, but it's technically possible. Like, that's how Apple wants to brag about how, like, we introduced a standard and we endorsed it for this long. And this is... Oh, you were Glassfire73. I remember you. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Because this debate is going on, there's probably a bunch of people like me internally at the higher ups at Apple that are all like, I want USB-C on the iPhone. It would make so much sense. And there's all these other people saying, think about our existing ports. Think about how upset people would get. And because they cannot reach a conclusion, there's probably even a division at Apple that's like, let's go portless, right? Because I think that's what Johnny Ive wanted. Johnny Ive was like, let's just go all in on wireless because that's simple and clean and minimal. But Johnny Ive is gone. And the type of people at Apple that were all about like, let's make the MacBook only USB-C and ditch all legacy ports. That was Phil Schiller. Phil Schiller is also gone. So now that Ive and Schiller are gone, Apple's bringing these legacy ports to the MacBook, which if you would have told people that would happen in 2016, like no one would have believed you. Like, hardly anyone would believe you if you were like, hey, they're doing USB-C right now. Amir became a supporter. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Amir. That's very nice of you. Appreciate it. $2 a month for people who don't know. You get updates on upcoming videos. Like, the members already know what today's video is going to be about. Helps me out. Helps me afford this expensive MacBook here. But anyway... I think there's a division of Apple that's like, I want simplicity and minimalism. And there's a division at Apple that's like, well, let's make it functional. Let's make it practical. Let's give it Thunderbolt. And other people that are like, no, Lightning's good enough. And no one can agree. So because they can't agree on anything, they do nothing. That's how I view that. That's my prediction of what Apple's doing right now. Like, Tim Cook is like the overseer, right? He's overseeing everything because he's the CEO. He comes into the engineering team, and also the engineering team is arguing with the marketing team. He goes in there, and they're all fighting, right? Just this visual of everyone's going, I want portless, I want Lightning, I want USB-C. And they're all fighting with each other, and they're all arguing. And Tim goes, hey, everyone, what did we agree on? What should we do? And he's like... He's waiting for a response, but everyone keeps arguing. I appreciate the super chats, Karen, but I'm not that gullible. I'm a little gullible, but not that gullible. Wait, what did Karen say? Hey, Google. Weird. Oh, that's a weird way to spell Google. Anyway, thanks for the donations. But basically, everyone's at a standstill, and Tim Cook is like, okay, so you guys can't agree on something? Like, did you come to an agreement which port is the best port? And everyone's like, no, we didn't come to an agreement. Quigley-Poo became a supporter. That's a funny name. Appreciate the support. Oh my god, why were so many people becoming members today? What's happening? But yeah, I think that because Tim Cook can't get a straight answer from his engineering and marketing team, and because everyone at Apple doesn't know what to do, Tim is like, okay, well, if you guys can't come up to a conclusion, then we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing, because the iPhones are still selling great, right? iPhone 13 sales are through the roof. As much as I don't like Lightning, and I've never used it on this phone, and I probably never will, people still bought it, just like me. Spent $1,200 on a phone that still has Lightning, and I don't care. But yeah, it's like it's not something that Apple has come to a definitive conclusion on, so they've decided that the answer is to do nothing until they can all agree on something, and I don't think everyone will. Anyway, hope that answers the question. Got several new members. Thank you. What camera, Aiden? I saw your super chat. Thank you. I just got a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro. Dude, I want that camera so bad. You want to trade? Aiden, I don't. You probably don't want this because it's a waste. But like, I would totally give you this camera for the camera you have right now, because this is garbage and you don't want this. But I am like, the thing is, I've spent too much money on Apple products recently, so I'm trying to like, save for the Tesla now. But it's a 18 to 35 millimeter lens, EF mount. I think it's an aperture of 1.8 or something. It's a Sigma lens. Made in Japan. This is a Ursa Mini Pro. It shoots at 4K at 60. It has 2 CFast card slots. It's in terrible condition because it's I bought it used and I used the crap out of it. And it's got the grip on the side. And I don't use it anymore because I am now using... Can I show this on camera? The Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera, but this is the older one, the 4K with the micro four thirds lens. But I want the EF mount one, and I want the Super 35 millimeter sensor. So I would love that camera you just got, but you should keep it because that's clearly the better camera than this. But I'm probably gonna end up selling it because it just kind of sits over there doing nothing. But thank you for the super chat. The Pocket Cinema is good enough. It gets the job done. It's kind of a lot of money, honestly, to spend on something that I know for a fact the audience is not going to notice or care if I start, shooting with a full frame. I'll start the bid for Drew's camera at $10,000. Says condescending idiot. Thank you. Have you ever played Happy Wheels? If you think that Adobe Flash Player Death killed it, you're wrong. It now runs on HTML5. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I used to play Happy Wheels, and then I turned 4. Thanks for the super chat. Aiden super chatted again. I actually got a Make-A-Wish. Used that to get the whole rig. I'm a filmmaker in LA shooting my film this month. Can I get sent an email and talk? Can I get sent an email? There should be an email in the About section of my channel, or you can reach out to me on Twitter or on Discord or whatnot. But that's cool. You're a filmmaker. You're doing what I wanted to do. Once I figured out I couldn't make movies, I just... I think there's a running theme there. People get inspired by filmmaking, so they want to start making movies, and then they suck at making movies, so they become YouTubers. Specifically tech YouTubers. There's like a lot of tech YouTubers that were trying to become filmmakers and they couldn't do it. So they were like, I guess I'll make tech videos because I like all this tech. Yeah, I'm streaming from the MacBook camera today, every day. This is my new setup. Not enough people have complained about it, so yeah, heck yeah. If anyone wants to buy that crappy camera for 10 grand, I'll sell it. I'll pay $100K if his camera has USB-C. This camera has USB-C, but not the big one. It's right there on the side. I've never used it though, unfortunately. It's easier for me to just write straight to the SD card anyway. Aiden Laffrey. Oh, there's this animation. Have you used the SD card of the MacBook a lot now? Pretty much every day, yeah. I record all of my videos to this and import it. It's a little slow. I think the CFast cards are faster. That's why they're called CFast cards. But they're not substantially enough faster to warrant using what is it? The CFast card to Thunderbolt adapter. I do have one that's connected to my iMac Pro right now, and I have used it on the MacBook on occasion, but it's so big and bulky. I'd rather just plug the SD card right in. Have you used the SD? Oh, I just read that. What camera is that? That's the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. It's the one with the micro four thirds mount. So it shoots at 4K at 60. I love that one a lot more than the big bulky one because it's newer and easier to plug into. What are your OBS settings? I don't know. My bitrate is set to 3000. I mean, what other settings do you want? I'm in film school. I don't know if you remember how I'm burying a Macintosh in Mojave. That's part of the movie. Oh, really? That's cool. It's a wonderful camera. First time I saw my preview in Zoom, I was like, holy cow, I look amazing. Can we get back to the 14 and 16-inch MacBooks? There needs to be more airtime on YouTube on them. Well, Mark, you got to say what exactly you want more of. But yes, I've got a big video coming up. Very long video talking about the MacBook. Have you watched Craig Federighi's recent presentation about sideloading on the iPhone? If have, do you have any thoughts about it? I haven't watched the presentation, but I get the gist of the argument, and I mostly agree. I know that sideloading allows for certain things, but I agree that, you know, sideloading can be a slippery slope to allow for more malware and scam apps, and Apple's had tremendous success and growth with the App Store, even if it is locked down and very limited with what they put on the App Store. Um, I've seen the argument made that, well, Macs allow, you to download apps that aren't on the App Store. How come that? But I when that happens, I'm always like, well, don't give Apple any ideas. They'll probably do that if you bring it up enough. Because I think Crazed Tech became a supporter. Thank you. Yes, it's funny, Karen. Thank you. So yeah, I mostly agree just because I don't see a ton of advantages to allowing side loading, and I see a lot of disadvantages. In my personal workflow, it wouldn't matter much. I think if we had any definitive proof that side loading would allow for a better app store, I would be open to hear it, but I haven't seen that. What we've seen so far with in-app purchases and customer spending and app store revenue is that the iOS app store outperforms everybody. Like, even though the iOS app store is not the most popular app store, like iOS isn't as popular as Android globally, it accounts for way more revenue generated than the Google Play Store. So I view that as potential that the iOS App Store has created a platform that makes people feel comfortable to spend their money on apps, which is ultimately what developers want at the end of the day, right? You want a rich community of customers that are comfortable spending money on software. That's what's great for app developers and people in the software industry. What you don't want is an app community that's kind of filled with a lot of scammy apps or a lot of malware. That makes people less trustworthy to download apps on their phone, because it doesn't have as reliable a reputation. And that's what basically the alternatives with Samsung or OnePlus or Google is like. We'll allow side loading over here, but that hasn't resulted in much success. So keeping things locked down and keeping things like we only will allow condescending idiot. That's his name. I love the profile picture. Thank you for becoming a supporter. So many new members today. Thank you, guys. I don't know who that is, Karen, but thank you for the super chat. I'm glad you're not God deciding who's better than who, but oh my God. Yeah, basically, if we had some proof that, like, here's this app store that allows side loading and it generates way more money than the iOS app store, which doesn't allow side loading, I'd be like, okay, maybe you have an argument, but so far I haven't seen that. So it seems like keeping things locked down result in a more successful app store. I understand the frustration, though, because people don't like the app store's guidelines and the app store's policies and the revenue cut. I was in a very similar situation myself when I wanted to do all my live streaming over on Twitch, because I thought Twitch was a better platform for live streaming. Like, the creative tools were better. It was much easier to live stream there. There weren't as many steps as there are on YouTube. I preferred the app features that they had available. Anybody could do picture-in-picture on Twitch, not just premium subscribers. I thought Twitch was a better platform, but there were less people willing to go to Twitch. And I'm sure a lot of you in the chat can attest. They're like, yeah, I'll watch your streams on YouTube, Drew, but I didn't want to download another app. I didn't want to have another account. I didn't want to have to separate, like, my YouTube entertainment into a different app. So because of that, I was like, okay, I ran a poll and I was like, do you guys want me to stay on Twitch or should I start streaming directly to YouTube? And it was overwhelming all on YouTube. Everybody preferred YouTube as my live streaming platform. Even though I didn't think it was a better place for it, it still resulted in people like Karen super chatting or condescending idiot becoming a member, basically we got way more viewers per stream and way more support in super chats per stream. So I don't like the revenue cut YouTube takes from the super chats compared to the revenue cut Twitch takes. I think Twitch's revenue cut is more upfront and it's better. And I like the Amazon Prime feature on Twitch, and they don't really have anything like that on YouTube. But it didn't matter because in the long run, I still made more on YouTube because there are more people watching and they're more comfortable donating. So I understand the frustration that you're like, man, my app could do so much better if I could put it on iOS, but I didn't have to put up with the 30% revenue cut, or I didn't have to put up with Apple's App Store guidelines or policies. I get it, but you got to think of the other side of the coin and what else you allow in when you let people have a back door and when you let people work around those policies. It doesn't just let in the well-intended. It doesn't just let in good people. You got, every time you add something, you have to think to yourself, like, how can this be abused? How can someone abuse this? And that's the truth, is people would abuse it. How much does my camera cost? I think when I bought it, it was like $1,200, but it's probably cheaper now. You could probably get it for like $1,000 or something. Okay, I hope they let the Apple Store be. If you want sideloading and all that crap that comes with it, use Android. That is why we have different platforms. I'm mostly in that regard. Like, a lot of people are like, it's my device, let me do what I want with it. It's like, you can do what you want with it. You're asking if Apple should be forced to help you circumvent their own guidelines. That's what the discussion is about. And I'm not in favor of forcing Apple to change something if they don't think it should be changed. Clearly, Apple's had a lot of success. Yeah, don't send your bank details, Amir. I want a larger MacBook Air, but I'm praying it doesn't have a white notch. Might have to buy an XPS 15 if that's the case, but I want macOS. Yeah. I personally have a hard time believing the white notch reports, because a white notch is something that can never be unseen, essentially. Even when the display is off, the white notch would be noticeable. I'm thinking about how many different use cases I use my MacBook in, and you don't see the notch because the menu bar is black, or you're watching a movie. Like, we watched a couple hour long movie yesterday, and you cannot see the notch at all because it's mini LED. And you could not do that at all with a white notch. It just would not work. If sideloading was great, Android wouldn't be similarly making it way more difficult. That's true. They do make it more difficult, and I think they do it for a reason. I mainly just think, on the sideloading subject, people think of it as too one-sided. They think of it as just like, it would help me and I would like it, so they should do it. It's like, think about how many non-techie people use iOS and use iPads, and how they might tap on links. If you allow sideloading and you can link those alt apps and those alt stores within a web page, they could be scrolling on Facebook one day or scrolling on some random website, and they see something and they tap it and it downloads an app onto the device and does something that obviously isn't okay, or monitors them or what have you. If anything, this is with the success of the iOS App Store, this you might inspire Apple to lock down macOS even further and only allow apps on the Mac App Store. But I think it equates for a fairly low market share, so there's less malware and less scam apps being targeted on the Mac. But they do put in quite a few extra steps. I mean, they make it difficult to install and run an app that's not from the App Store. You got to go into settings and allow and hit open anyway, and they say, we can't verify this. And I guess they might try to do that with iOS, but I'm basically not saying they can't. I'm just saying I understand why they don't want to, and I'm not in favor of a government stepping in and forcing them to, because you get attacked as apple sheep if you mention any downsides. Yeah, right. Let's see. When is Amazon Fire Phone 2 releasing? As soon as Bezos gets to space, for real. I'm more in the camp where I just go to Android if I needed to do it. Yeah. I still don't want sideloading on iPhone. I fear that major app developers would move apps off the App Store and force people to have a worse user experience with downloading apps and updating them. That's true. In my experience with PCs and Macs, like, So many companies want to avoid the revenue cut of whoever. Like, it's not just Apple's revenue cut. A lot of companies want to avoid Steam's revenue cut. So they have a different launcher and they have a different store for every single company. And before you know it, you'd have like 6, 7 different app stores you'd have to manage and download just to keep your apps up to date that you have available. You can open some apps on Mac without changing settings if it is a verified developer. Yeah, some do it. Think of your grandma as the common Apple user they have to cater to. They'd much rather have tech news site headlines saying Apple against sideloading than national grandma loses life savings. That's true. You're very right. Grandma loses life savings. Apple sadly has it right as much as I'd like to see more freedom. It's why I have an M1 Mac and a gaming PC. Yeah, there you go. I'm okay with companies having different approaches. Like, I don't think it's a good idea for everyone to be forced to do the exact same thing on each one of their devices, because clearly Apple's had much more success with their locked down store. So might as well, you know, let a company that's found more success with their lockdown method keep it that way, you know? Piracy is a problem on Android because people downloaded modded APKs of paid apps and sideload them. There you go. Apple doesn't like that either. Only Mac App Store apps on future versions of macOS? Absolutely not. No Chrome OS for me. No Windows RT for me. No Windows 10s for me. All right. You can fight it all you want, but luckily it's not not a thing. Not all grandmas are that slow. True. Not all grandmas are, but some are. Is there a USB-C iPhone? What? Confused. Yes. A guy named Kenny Pie, for those just joining, made the world's first USB-C iPhone, and he's selling it on eBay. He has not reached out to me or asked me to talk about this. I wanted to talk about it because I think it shows a lot that someone is willing to pay $100,000 for this USB-C iPhone, and there's so much attention surrounding this phone, which works. It charges and transfers data, and it took a lot of work to get him to modify it to make it functional, but it does technically work. So he basically was willing to sell it. He's from Switzerland, and he was willing to sell it to the highest bidder, and he's still got 6 days left on this auction, and the price is already insanely high. So I wanted to highlight that. If a government does have to force a company to switch to something, I hope it's USB-C. I don't want a government to force Apple to allow sideloading, but I wouldn't be that upset if the EU was like, hey, Apple, if you want to sell phones here, they need to have USB-C on them. You know, it's like, I don't want them to force Apple to do everything, but if it's something I want, you know, I'm not going to complain as much, I suppose. Is that selfish? Yes. The highest bid is still $99,900. Yes, but I have to imagine as more and more people start watching this listing, there might be another bid within the next. I mean, there's still 6 days and 19 hours to go. Thank you for the donation. Your grandma called me a genius for showing her how to open a Safari. Imagine paying $100,000 for a custom iPhone just for it to be stolen by a porch thief or the delivery person. Yeah, that's an expensive box. I'm trying to think of something else you could have delivered in the mail for $100,000. Probably like a gold watch or something. I think forcing USB-C is a pretty reasonable thing for a government to do for environmental reasons. Absolutely don't think it's overreach. In America, we are trained to be skeptical of government. I wouldn't say we are trained to be, but that is kind of what the country was founded off, I suppose. I don't remember that lesson in school. Remember, kids, don't believe the government. Like, they never did that. If anything, the public school system was fairly biased towards the government and saying we should trust them and everything. But I agree with you mostly, Michael. I don't really think, for the sake of environmental reasons and simplifying ports and trying to get everybody on the same page with the standard so that there's less e-waste and less adapters and we can all move forward with this one port for everything. I don't think the government's necessarily overstepping their bounds there. It's this specific situation I'm fine with. I wouldn't want the government stepping in and saying Apple has to allow alt stores, Apple has to allow side loading. So far, it's been taken to court, and the judge doesn't seem to be in favor of it. The only thing Apple had to change their App Store policy on was they have to allow apps to link people to a third-party payment system. That was something the judge said, no, you need to allow people to do that. But the Epic was trying, in their court case, they were trying to get Apple to allow alt stores and allow side loading, and the judge said, no, they don't have to do that. So EU has several governments. Imagine the cool kids from the movie Grease trying to act cool and with it, but today we just roll our eyes at them. I'm not a huge fan of, EU Parliament or whatever. I'm not saying I agree with everything they do, but I do like USB-C. So if there's any kind of mandate that makes them switch to Type-C, I'm fine with it. Do you think Apple would make a USB-C phone for the EU and a Lightning phone for the US, or just go straight to USB-C? Ooh, that's an interesting question. They made iPhones with millimeter wave 5G. Sorry for the lag, by the way. I see the lag, and Dishy McFlatface is just looking for a satellite, which is annoying because we're out of beta now, so we should not be having these problems. SpaceX, come on. Come on, you can do it. I did try to put the bit rate higher. Maybe I should put it lower. But in the US, they make iPhones with a millimeter wave 5G antenna, which I've literally never used and never will. It's pointless. But overseas, they don't have millimeter wave. So it's not impossible for Apple to make one iPhone have a different hardware on the inside than another. But I don't know. I think it would be too confusing during the unveiling. I have a hard time believing Apple would be like, and for some demographics, you can have USB-C, and for this demographic, we have Lightning. Like, I don't know. That doesn't sound like something Apple would want to talk about on stage. It'd probably be easier for them to just pick one port and run with that across everything. Apple's stance on sideloading is literally saying freedom is bad because people can do bad things, but that's just how I see it. Well, that's true. Yeah. We don't have absolute freedom. I think freedom is kind of a vague term. I mean, we say things like we live in a free country, but there are still laws. You can't do anything you want, and that results in a better society, I would say. We don't want the purge to be real. That would be true freedom. No rules. No one's going to tell you what you can and can't do. That becomes a wild, wild west very quickly and not a very civilized society. So to create a more enjoyable experience that's more reliable and consistent, and you don't have to worry about what kind of apps you're downloading or what kind of payments are being made on the phone, Apple does make it locked down. They set parameters and they have rules that you can't break on the App Store, and that's resulted in making the most successful App Store in the world. So people are angry because they're like, well, this is where I think the problem in these court cases is like most people see it as all this revenue that's being generated by the App Store would have been generated by the App Store regardless of what Apple did. Like, it was inevitable that this was going to make a ton of money. And the fact that Apple maintains it and monitors it and checks everything that goes up, it's just secondary. That just happened to be how they do it. And Apple takes their 30% cut. But if Apple just didn't take that cut, and if Apple just, let people do what they want and they didn't have any policies or any guidelines on what people would do, we would be making even more money. Thank you, Gleb, for the super chat. Like, Apple, the developers could be making a ton more, but in my view, it's like the reason so much money is made off the App Store is because it is locked down, is because it is thought through, and Apple created a reliable, streamlined App Store experience that people are comfortable spending money on, because when we see the app stores that don't do that, they don't do as well. So do you think there will be a truly all-in-one device, something that is phone-sized, which utilizes foldable display technology to be an iPad-sized device, which can seamlessly run macOS while docked? I have less confidence in folding tech, just because I haven't seen it change very much in the past few years. Like, every generation, they're like, this is more durable now, this is more durable, but you can still scratch it with a fingernail, and it still has a big crease. I think there's some fundamental physics issues that you just can't get around with. The idea of an iPhone being capable of, like, basically turning into Samsung DeX, where you partner it with a keyboard and mouse and a monitor, and then it boots into macOS, that I could see happening maybe if they get bored with iPhones and they got to start coming up with more reasons for you to get one. I mean, this phone has a chip. It's not as fast as the M1, but the M1 is pretty insanely fast. You could easily power a Mac off of the A15 chip. That wouldn't shock me. And this has got 256 gigs of storage, just like the base MacBook Air. So it would take up a bit more storage. You know, some iPhones have a terabyte now. If you could dock it to something and have it boot into macOS and all that, USB-C would probably help with that. If they put Thunderbolt on the iPhone, it could transfer a lot more data and stuff to the monitor. Yeah, I could see that happening. I don't know about like a single device that fits in your pocket that you take out of your pocket and then it unfolds into a complete Mac. I mean, we can't even get Apple to combine phone and iPad products together. They don't seem that interested in doing a foldable, so let alone a foldable that's also a laptop, that's also a Mac. It's like, I doubt it. I don't think that would be financially beneficial to Apple, and I don't think the product experience would be very good. When you start trying to combine everything together, you usually just get a more crappy experience. That's why I'm not a tremendous fan of foldables right now, is because it feels like this is a crappy tablet and a crappy phone for the price of a really nice phone and a really nice tablet put together. So it's like you're paying a lot for something that's not that great. Yeah, please don't spam the same questions. Try using an iPhone in a crowded space, and that's where millimeter wave comes in. Even T-Mobile has millimeter wave for congested areas like stadiums and subway stations. I'm sorry, there's a little sickness going around, so there's not a lot of close. I don't go to concerts. I don't go to stadiums, which is why I don't care. If there's an environmental impact with a policy, I support. So forcing USB-C on iPhone, I support. Forcing sideloading on iPhone is overstepping it. Yeah, I would agree. I want USB-C on the iPhone, but I think the EU has bigger things to worry about. Oh, sure. Well, yeah, this is minuscule compared to other government issues, but let's see. Technically, Samsung DeX could provide you with a 3-in-1 experience today, but it's pretty limited. You could connect it as one of many variables, but the primary variable of the USB-C decision. This debate predates Brexit. Yeah. The EU has been talking about making... I've seen way too many people think that the iPhone has to switch to USB-C. Like, the EU has already passed a law and they forced it. It's like, no, it's a bill. It hasn't been passed, but it's gotten moved into another stage. But yes, they've been talking about this for a long time. Who are you to talk physics? You dropped out. Who are you to talk physics? How did your parents react when you dropped out? They were proud of me. They were very, very happy because they knew I wasn't going to be in a tremendous amount of college debt. Someone name is Karen. They can talk physics. In the UK, we left in the EU. We left the EU, so I don't think it would help, as USA and UK are the main country. The main countries? What does that mean? There's far more people in the EU than in the UK, but I just want Apple to see this story and have everyone get this much attention on the USB-C iPhone so that Apple will realize you won't get that much backlash, because I'm sure that's the argument the Lightning fanboys are using. Is they're like, Apple, people will get mad at you if you switch away from Lightning, and it's like people will be so happy. People will spend thousands and thousands of dollars on their iPhone just so it could have USB-C. Foldable is a nice idea, but the current software on foldable sucks to the point it's not very usable. Using iOS and then trying to use Android is like eating after brushing your teeth. Yeah, I don't even really think it's a software problem. It's more of just like the tablet's not that enjoyable and the phone isn't that enjoyable. I mean, the tech community finds it interesting. I get that. Like, I don't doubt that there is YouTubers out there and channels you guys watch that are like, I love this folding phone, but they review a ton of phones, so anything that's different from the typical glass rectangle, that's impressive to them. They find that interesting because they're used to the same old shape every single time. But if you're the type of person to buy a phone and hold on to it for years and years and years, they're not even remotely close in foldables. Even though they're cheaper than they've ever been, they're still not even close to being considerable for, I would say, mainstream. I know people who installed millimeter wave at Jordan Hare for Verizon so they could just have usable cell service for Auburn football games. I get that if you want to just have usable cell service for a bunch of people together, but I'm just sick and tired of all of the advertising that 5G will give you gigabit speeds. It's like, stop bragging about that. It doesn't happen. It's so rare. It's so rare to ever see speeds like that, and trying to advertise it like, oh yeah, just buy this phone and you'll get it, tomorrow. I can just imagine some Twitter normie saying, OMG, I can't use any of my old cables on the new iPhone, and get 500,000 likes. I feel like this is inevitable though, right? Like, how long can Apple really support Lightning? Another 10 years? Another 20 years? At a certain point, they either got to go portless or they got to go Type-C. Like, and I think portless would be just as frustrating. I actually think you would tick off more people. You would tick off a lot of the tech community, and you would tick off average consumers if you went portless, because I don't think average consumers know or care much about MagSafe charging. Most people just use Lightning. Most people just use the cable their phone came with, or they use their last phone's cable, which is often Lightning. So yes, like, anytime you change a port, people will be upset. Even with the legacy ports coming back on the MacBook Pro, there's people upset because they're like, I wanted 4 Thunderbolt ports, and now there's only 3. I don't think that argument makes much sense, but there's always going to be some frustration. But you also have to acknowledge there will also be frustration when you do nothing. If you just keep supporting Lightning for another 5 years, there will still be a growing number of people that are like, what the heck, Apple? Come on. You got USB-C on all these things. I've got 800 megabits on speed tests on T-Mobile on my channel, and that was on N41, which is the old Sprint 2.6 gigahertz spectrum. So it's not a gigabit. I'm sure it's good, but you're intentionally looking for it. You have to, like, go out of your way to try to, like, I don't know. Why can't wireless charging be the standard for charging? I'm all for USB-C, don't get me wrong, just asking. Well, they're not trying very hard because they're not including wireless charging with every iPhone. They still include a Lightning cable. And there's still a lot of people that don't like wireless charging because they want to, use the phone as they're charging, or they use it with certain accessories. And I always hear the argument of like, yeah, but I use my iPhone for this one thing, and the Lightning port, I need a port for the iPhone to be capable of that thing. So you would tick off that whole side of the iPhone user base if you ditch the port. So while I'm personally fine with it because I'm okay with just airdropping stuff to my Mac, and I charge via MagSafe all the time, I admit that I am not an average consumer. I'm in the tech community, so I'm willing to adopt new standards like MagSafe. I'm willing to buy new adapters and chargers if I need to. But I just think switching to USB-C would please the most amount of people. I don't think keeping Lightning will, personally. Let's see. I was not looking for it. I was taking my vacuum cleaner into Dyson and ran a test in my car. Well, if you're running a test, you're looking for it. I'm just saying, what were you doing in the car that benefited from 800 down that you couldn't have done in the car with 80 down with 4G? Millimeter wave, you basically have to touch the cell tower with the phone to get those speeds. Yeah. No, I haven't seen many people advertising you can get 800 megabits down. All I hear about with 5G is you can get 3.5 gigabits per second in ideal conditions. And the ideal condition is you slap the phone on the side of the cell tower. I bring my iPhone backpacking with a battery pack, and if I had to charge it without a cable, the battery would have to be huge. Well, they make, MagSafe battery packs that are decent size. You could do the same thing. I'm sure that the third-party market would take off with wireless charging battery packs if Apple suddenly removed the port. That would cause a lot of change in the battery market. 640Ks is enough, Bill Gates. No, but you're answering my question with another question, though, Ryan, because I'm saying, like, seriously, on a phone, sure, if we're talking 40 years from now, maybe having 800 down will be considered standard and you won't be able to play a video on 80. But right now, don't advertise 5G like it's going to make a big difference if right now on a phone it literally serves no purpose. Will you be reviewing the Pixel 6? I reviewed a bunch of Android phones last year and no one really cared. There were Android phones I liked, there were Android phones I didn't like, and the general consensus from all of them was like, who cares? He's an Apple sheep. What does he care? So I'm not super interested in Android phones personally. The only reason I ever checked them out was because I thought people wanted to hear my opinion. And when I got a bunch of responses saying, we don't care of your opinion, then I was like, okay, then I don't need to do this. This is just wasting time. So you can download Ted Lasso in 5 seconds. Yeah. I love that use case because it implies that you will not have 5G later. Most people, I don't think, are downloading TV shows to their phones and iPads. They just stream them. And you can stream them on 4G just fine. The problem is the weight, not the cable. I'm carrying this massive battery pack on a 10-day backpacking trip. Ideally, I would use a less lossy system. I don't think the loss of inductive versus wired would make it that much bigger, to be honest. Maybe a little bit, but you'd still have several modules that you could just snap on and snap off. It's like, okay, this one's dead. Put another one on the back. Exactly, James. Android phones are a waste of time. I'm only going to do them if people are like interested in watching them. And the response generally from all my Android phone reviews last year was just like, okay, Drew's not going to use it, so who cares what he thinks. Side-loading apps on my iPad would have been amazing. Hope EU makes a mandatory regulation. Exactly. Shawboy is my classic example of like, it would help me specifically. I don't care if other people get scammed or malware shows up. That doesn't matter. As long as I'm happy. Content creation on the fly is nice. I also uploaded that video in my car. But like 800, this 5G, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you upload? Was your upload 800 or was your download 800? If you're saying uploading videos in content creation, 5G always has pretty crappy upload. It's typically not that impressive from what I've seen. You can get, as far as all the speed tests I've seen with 5G, upload is barely different from 4G. It's all about download. Can you stream at 4K? I could, but the webcam isn't 4K, and also you wouldn't see the difference. There's specific reasons that Twitch doesn't support 4K streaming. There's always a bit of compression when you do a live broadcast, and the difference between 1080 and 4K is not very noticeable. 5G uses LTE for upload still. Have Sneed Mobile Tech on and see what he says. For some reason, where I live in Cleveland, there's 5G ultra-wide everywhere there. It's ridiculous. I agree it's ridiculous. Mine was around 80 megabits up. Dude, you can get that on 4G. You do not need 5G to get 80 megabits up. I've clocked over 100 on 4G. Sorry for the lag. What do you want from Apple in 2022? Probably biggest thing would be a external monitor that can actually match the specs of the MacBook Pro. That's probably highest on my list. I would love USB-C on the iPhone. That, of course, I think it's time, especially if we're going to be bragging about ProRes. Again, I still plan on keeping my iPhone long term, so I wouldn't upgrade for that. But if you want to make a change to the iPhone that a lot of people will appreciate, I think Type-C or even Thunderbolt. They put Thunderbolt on the iPad Pros, so I say do it on the phone. Sorry for the lag. Come on, Dishy, you can do it. Oh, what is this? Oh, everything's on Wi-Fi now. I turned it off. Come on, don't do that. That could be causing it. Yes, I'm always using the MacBook webcam to stream. That's my go-to streaming camera now. Apple can put sideloading as a developer option of sort, an Apple developer account. That would have been good enough. People would still be complaining. Then they'd be saying, well, now I got to pay Apple $100 a year just to sideload. It's like, I don't know. I have a friend who hates Apple. I remind him he shouldn't use USB-C. Yeah, I've done a video in the past. I want Apple to become a mobile carrier. I feel like that ties into their current product line. I want the Apple Silicon Mac Pro. I basically would love Intel to be completely wiped off of Apple's website next year. I would love it if the iMac Pro was one size bezel all the way around and there was no chin, black bezels, no notch. Just a really clean, minimal looking monitor would be wonderful. iPads, I don't know. I guess dual booting macOS would be cool on the iPad. What is the difference between Thunderbolt 4 and USB-C? Thunderbolt 4 is the transfer speed of the port. USB-C is the shape of the port. So you can have USB-C on a $200 Android phone that's not Thunderbolt, but all Thunderbolt 4 ports are USB-C because that's the shape of the connector that they went with. Me and my friends went to the Apple store the other day, and one of them flexed how he can plug in his Pixel 4a into an iPad charger while the iPhone you can't. It's a good point. In my view, it's kind of dumb. It's kind of one of those reasons that I don't see why Lightning needs to stick around at this point. Apple as a mobile carrier would be awesome, but I can't imagine the anti-monopoly or whatever garbage would uproar. Yeah, it's true. There's already a lot of people that think Apple is too big and too powerful. So I don't know how that impacts Apple's decision of what services and what businesses to get into. Um, Completely different subject, but how many Apple Watch bands do you have for your Apple Watch? I used to have more. I started selling them and giving them away because I just felt like one day Apple's going to change the connector on that watch. You know it. It's probably not next year, and it might not be the year after that, but at some point they're going to change these connectors. And I also realized the more watch bands I bought, the less I could use each one because you can only really wear one watch band at a time. So I was like, this is kind of stupid to spend all this money on bands that I can only wear one at a time. So I started giving them away as gifts and, selling them. And so now I think I only have like two or three. I got a black one and this one, and then a couple of sport loops. So maybe like four or five. Um, Really torn between the new MacBooks and a yellow iMac and matching HomePods. Oof. Well, I think that would look disgusting, but I guess you do you, man. I mean, it's going to be hard to get HomePods to match a yellow iMac, I guess. Yellow HomePods with the yellow iMac. Okay. That's all right. Good for you. Lightning makes the iPhone iconic, like the notch now. What? You don't even look at it. It's not even on the front. Type C would, for the most part, basically look exactly the same. I don't know how Lightning is iconic. Also, wouldn't that argument hold up against 30 pin? No, Apple shouldn't switch to Lightning because 30 pin is just so iconic. It's so recognizable. I might care more about the stupidity of Lightning ports if it weren't for wireless charging and MagSafe. Yeah, probably me too. The Lightning port doesn't bother me on my current phone because I can just not use it. Meant to say where he lives, where I live in St. Louis, and T-Mobile has N41 most places. Sub 6 is enough for most places. I would say all 4G is enough. It's just a matter of getting it in more places. 5G is mostly pointless. The main reason 4G wasn't enough is usually because of bad coverage. I've rarely ever run into the situation where it's like, oh, I'm really close to the tower, but my phone still isn't fast enough, unless you're at like a sporting event, which is, with the pandemic, incredibly uncommon. Do you know anything about the MacBook Pro delivery? Minus stock. I know nothing about it, other than there's a lot of people ordering them, and there's a chip shortage, so I guess you just got to be patient. Do you think Apple will make something like the discontinued Thunderbolt display at sub 2000 or 1500 for the consumer market? Considering the LG ultrafine displays were like $1,700, I don't see Apple getting their standalone monitor to much lower than 2000. 2000 would be great. But especially if now with Apple having a big emphasis on XDR and now they have mini LED panels, I would really, really love to see an external monitor that's mini LED, 120 hertz, and $3,000, maybe, possibly. Even with MagSafe Duo uses Lightning and MagSafe uses USB-C, drives me bonkers. I agree, that is very frustrating. MagSafe Duo would have been perfect if it was Type-C. Yeah, I think most people are like James. Most people don't need to download. Whoa, Michael, thank you. Thank you for becoming a member. That was nice of you. Jeez. Corin, I hope I pronounced that right, but thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Most people do not need to download movies in 4 seconds. I do not think there is any practical use case to having gigabit on a phone. Gigabit on a desktop where you're uploading or live streaming, or on a console where you're downloading like hundreds and hundreds of gigs fairly regularly. Like, consoles are pretty common just because they're often downloading games and game updates, which can be hundreds of gigabytes. So 5G home internet, I would say, has a more applicable use case than just 5G on phones. Like if you're offering a wireless modem for people to buy, I've seen Verizon offer that and T-Mobile offers that. It's not that fast, but It's not like ultra wideband fast, but if you're going to offer people like a way to have gigabit for the house with your console, like that's where fast data speeds matter a lot. On a phone, majority of data consumption is YouTube, Twitter, email, texting, FaceTime calls. It's not a big deal. If carriers would use 4G LTE, it would be more than enough for most people. Well, I think there are a lot of instances where 4G wasn't fast enough, but probably 95% of the time it was because there wasn't strong enough coverage. That was the problem. It wasn't the bandwidth of 4G had been maximized. It wasn't that there were too many people attached to one tower. It was like, no, you're just too far away from the tower. Yeah, New York and St. Louis are not most of the country. Jane, wow. Jane sent a super chat and said, from a high tech grandma. That's awesome. I'm glad we've got some grandmas that are into the tech field. Despite all the talk of work and productivity on a phone to justify specs, no one works on a 6-inch display. That's true. I think a lot of people just prefer consuming media because they use their phone for a lot of stuff more and more. I'd rather see budget phones keep the price down. What, for Androids? I don't even use any Apple products and I support the channel. That must be something. Yeah, you're right. That is weird. No Apple products? There it is. Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it. Cities are a huge part of population. Not necessarily. If you combine the top 10 major cities in the US, I think it accounts for less than half of the total population. So you can knock out a decent part of it if you're focused on concentrating advertising. Like, yeah, we're going to give 5G to this area, but it is not the most people do not live in major cities like that. There's a lot of people that do, but the more rural communities outweigh all of them because there's so many more of them. Verizon has an ad for 5G home internet that is offered everywhere, but only in select markets. Yeah, I looked into it. I was curious because 5G home internet is something I could actually use. That's where having fast data speeds matter to me, but they didn't have it where I live. Starlink is here. 60% of U.S. population is Eastern time. Okay, that's pretty half, but 60% of the population is not in New York. Would you split your budget to buy a TV and a monitor or spend your entire budget on a really good monitor and consume your TV shows there? I already have a TV, I guess, so that's why I would rather just go all in on a monitor because that's something I kind of need considering my MacBook is decent, but the display is still... If Apple wants people to move to USB-C, they're going to have to make wireless CarPlay a thing to add AirPlay to more things so people don't have to always change. They're already doing that, Joey, though. Joey, they're already, like, most new cars already support wireless CarPlay. But I just don't see that stopping them before. I don't get this argument of like, Apple can't do that because there might be some people who don't like it. It's like, that's literally never stopped the removal of the headphone jack. It's never stopped the removal of 30-pin. When there's a better standard, Apple's willing to make it inconvenient for people. I'm shopping for an iPad Pro and I used to use AirPods Pro, but I lost them, but I don't use an iPhone. Oh, weird. Do you use Clean My Mac X? It is necessary for an average consumer? I haven't used it myself. 47% is Eastern, 30% Central. Okay, correction. I don't know the exact distribution of population. I just know if you combine the biggest cities, the top 10 biggest cities, it doesn't equate to even 50%. So the vast majority do not live in the major cities. 83% of the U.S. population lives in a... Well, I guess it depends on your definition of major city, but that doesn't sound right. Because you've got like 10 million in New York, and you've got 5 million in L.A., probably another, 5 million in Chicago, and now you're getting close to 30 million, but there's 300 million people in the country, so I guess major city as in like what? There's more than 100,000 people there? I find T-Mobile's mid-band much better than LTE. LTE has always been total crap here in Oklahoma, even in the metro areas. Well, it's because mid-band is basically 4G. It's like none of the next generation stuff that they brag so much about. What about suburbs? What would those count as? Well, I would say not like the concentrated areas. That the suburbs aren't really who's benefiting. Um, there was several physical and technical limitations to 30 pin. It was a connector designed for iPods crammed into a phone. Lightning has far less trade-offs. I would say it does, considering I would say it was it's not a similar thing because switching to USB-C would be easier. When Apple switched everyone and switched the iPhone to Lightning, no one had that cable. Lightning was brand new. Nobody was supporting it. Whereas Apple has been shipping USB-C for 6 years on their own products, on their own iPads, on their MacBooks. So it's not a new thing. So switching people from 30 pin to Lightning, I think, is far more difficult than switching people from Lightning to Type-C, because the likelihood of someone already having Type-C is far, far higher. And Apple's already shipping USB-C with the iPhone. It's just on the other end of the cable. So you're already pushing that. Major city is like major credit card. It means whatever the person's saying it wants it to mean. To me, major city means like, population over 2 million or so. No, I haven't seen Intel's new chips because I don't care. I'm all in on M1 Max. If the new MagSafe connector can transfer data, it could replace Lightning instead of... No, it would still be wireless. If you could transfer data through the glass, you could transfer it over the air. It would still be wireless. That's basically AirDrop. You don't need to be like, it can only transfer data when it's close by. That's NFC tech isn't good at that. Anyway, I got to get going, but seriously, thank you everybody who became a member today and all the wonderful super chats we've received. Like, you guys have been extremely generous. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to live stream on Saturday, so this might be my last live stream for a while, but seriously, thank you everyone. Really means a lot to me. Is the Lightning maybe to do with waterproofing? No, you can do tons of waterproofing on Type-C. It's not hard. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Bye-bye.